Hello, and welcome to Ruth Reacts to Books, Season 2, Episode 10. I'm your host, Ruxie Ruth McGouth, and today I'm going to be reviewing The Women, written by Kristin Hannah. This book was recommended to me by my friend Melissa Pacharski, and it was one of her favorite books that she read last year. And then my book club decided to read it this year, and so I read that for my book club. We're meeting tonight to talk about it, and I can't wait to tell them how much I love this book, as I gave it 5 stars. And Melissa, great choice. It was amazing. Normally, this would not have been a book that I would have picked out because it's about a person who goes to war. And normally I don't read war stories because I find that they're too intense, and in the past when I've read them, I get really upset. However, I'm so glad I read this one. So what I'll do is what I do in this show is I read the cover of the book, so you know a little bit about what the book's about, and then I tell you what I gave the book, which I already told you to give it 5 stars, what I liked about it, what I didn't like, some of the themes, and then I have a recipe that I have assigned, and I will share links in the description of my YouTube show, that you can go look at the links to the recipe, and then I'll tell you about my nail set that I'm wearing that I assigned to this book. So here we go. The Women by Kristin Hannah. Women can be heroes. When 20-year-old nursing student Frankie Frances McGouth hears these words, it is a revelation. Raised in the sun-drenched, idyllic world of her Southern California and sheltered by her conservative parents, she has always prided herself on doing things right. But in 1965, the world is changing, and she suddenly dares to imagine a different future for herself. When her brother ships out to serve in Vietnam, she joins the Army Nurse Corps and follows his path. As green and inexperienced as the men sent to Vietnam to fight, Frankie is overwhelmed by the chaos and destruction of war. Each day is a gamble of life and death, hope and betrayal. Friendships run deep and can be shattered in an instant. In war, she meets and becomes one of the lucky, the brave, the broken, and the lost. But war is just the beginning for Frankie and her veteran friends. The real battle lies in coming home to a changed and divided America, to angry protesters, and to a country that wants to forget Vietnam. The Women is the story of one woman gone to war, but it shines a light on all women who put themselves in harm's way, whose sacrifice and commitment to their country is too often been forgotten. A novel about the deep friendships and bold patriotism, The Women is a richly drawn story with a memorable heroine whose idealism and courage under fire will come to define an era. All right, so as I said, I gave this book 5 stars. I really liked it a lot. I definitely added the other books that this author has to my list. What I liked about it, everything. It was very gripping. I had a hard time putting the book down. I didn't want to stop reading. It was you really cared about the characters. You wanted to know more. You wanted to know, Frankie is the main character, and you really care about her as she's going through the struggles that she's facing. And honestly, I wasn't born during the time that Vietnam was going on, and I knew very little about it. So this really was, even though I have a degree in history, I didn't study the time period in American history where Vietnam was going on. And so I really didn't know very much about it. And so this was very interesting to me. And I definitely think that everyone should read it or something like it. But it's fictional retelling, but it was very accurate. And at the end of the book, in some of the acknowledgments, the author talks about several of the actual Vietnam veterans that she worked with to put the book together. So the people that she met with and the books that she read to get some of the stories that helped her to create her characters. So that was really interesting. And obviously she was gathering data in order to be able to tell the story. And so that's what I liked. I didn't really dislike much about the book. Obviously, it was a very tough book because there's a lot of tough storylines that are inside it. So there could be things that other people maybe don't want to read about. So I'll tell you some of the themes, but I definitely liked it. I liked pretty much everything about the book. some of the themes are obviously the Vietnam War and the role that women played in that, which was mainly being there as nurses, and there were a few other roles that women were able to play in the war, but the piece that the story kind of told about was how forgotten that was, even once they had returned, like how people said there were no women over there, and how everywhere she went she really couldn't get a lot of help because everyone said, well, there weren't any women in Vietnam. What are you talking about? So kind of that untold story that women often face when people don't think that women have been involved in things like war. There is some miscarriage in the book, addiction, betrayal. So all those are some things I think that people could struggle with. There were undercurrents of kind of how hard family can be at times if they don't understand you or you don't understand them. People doing hard things. If you know who Glennon Doyle is, she says we can do hard things. Like Frankie from this book definitely does hard things. For me, I've been in human resources for a long, long time. And so in human resources, we have what's called protected classes. So that means that, if you come and you work somewhere, we can't discriminate against you because of your existence in a protected class. So that might be, we can't discriminate against you because of your race or because you're from a certain country. And one of the things in those protected classes is veteran status. And I always wondered, why is veteran status there? Because to me, I've never seen anyone be anything but nice to veterans, except for maybe in the last election that the current president made some strange statements about veterans. But when I was reading this book, they were being pretty horrible to the veterans that were coming home. And I looked up while I was reading this book, when did veterans get added to the list of protected classes? And it was during the Vietnam War that they were added because people were being so horrible to people and it was impacting their ability to get hired. So it was a little history lesson for me in my job of like how that got added to the law and why and when that happened. So that was really interesting for me, and horrible, like to find out that people would be treated that way after coming back and serving their country. So I thought it was a great book. Highly recommend. So the recipe I picked for this book, I decided to go with a meatloaf recipe because it's a thick, dense, like heavy. It's heavy and dense. And it's got a lot of content. So I got that for the meat eaters, and then I got a nut loaf recipe for the non-meat eaters. So that's in the description of the YouTube, if you want to get those recipes out. And then for my nails that go along with the book, I had a really hard time finding a nail set that I thought matched at all. So you can see this is it's hard to see, but there's this is called Floral Prism. And I went with this one because it's kind of got a floral pattern on the nails, and it reminded me of kind of some of the flowers that you might find in the Vietnam jungle, which is where she was stationed for a long part of the book. And I couldn't find anything else that really I thought matched in any way to the book. And so that's why I picked that one. So I hope everyone has a good week. Love you all. Bye.